They looked like they'd just walked out of a backyard basketball gymnasium into a showroom filled with 7-figure machines. 2 teenage boys, cargo shorts, dusty sneakers, plain white tees, no labels. No attitude, just the kind of quiet confidence that unsettles anyone who thinks money wears a name tag. They strolled into the luxury dealership like they owned the oxygen, heading straight for the kind of car most people don't even dream about because dreaming that big hurts. The younger one, Milo, pointed at a glimmering midnight blue beast of a hypercar. "That's the one," he whispered. Beside him, his older brother Zeke nodded slowly as if he'd just spotted destiny behind the wheel. Every angle of the car screamed perfection, sleek lines, ridiculous wheels, and an aura of speed that made you lean forward without meaning to. As they moved closer, taking it all in without touching a thing, a sharp voice cut through the room like a belt through silk. "Can I help you?" The words hung in the air, sour and smug. A salesman in a crisply pressed navy suit had materialized beside them, polished within an inch of his soul. Hair slicked, cufflinks glinting, he gave the boys a glance that started at their shoes and crawled upward with quiet judgment. "I think you're in the wrong place," he said, smile curling like spoiled milk. Zeke blinked, then asked, "We were just wondering, do these start at 900 grand? The man nearly scoffed. "Yes," he said, slicing the air with syllables as if the boys were tourists from the land of "you can't afford this. Perhaps you'd be more comfortable elsewhere." Behind him, a few staff members tried to suppress smirks. A couple seated at a nearby desk, clearly in the middle of buying something they thought mattered, looked over and gave a soft, pitying shake of the head. Milo's smile faded, his eyes dropped to the floor, and the sparkle in them dulled just a little. Zeke nodded once, polite but embarrassed. "Sorry to bother you," he muttered, and they turned to go. Their backs were straight, but their shoulders had dipped just slightly. The glass doors sighed shut behind them as they stepped back into sunlight. It should have ended there, just another story of big dreams and small minds colliding in a showroom. Espresso shots were pulled, sales goals resumed. Faces reset into pre-approved customer service masks, but then as the boys reached for their bikes, a new voice called out, "Wait." They turned. From behind a nearby desk stepped a woman in a cream blouse and black slacks. Sleek, ponytail, kind eyes, posture like she meant business but didn't need to prove it. "Do you have a minute?" she asked. No sales pitch, no ego, just something genuine. The boys looked at each other, then walked their bikes back to the entrance and stepped inside again. "I heard you asking about this model," she said, meeting them near the car they'd admired. "It's one of the finest in our collection. Let me show you a few things." Curiosity bloomed again on their faces like the sun had peeked back out. She crouched slightly to meet them at eye level, not above, not below, just present. She explained engine specs like she was telling a story, pointed out customization options like they were magic spells, handed them brochures as if they were treasure maps. They didn't ask about the price, they asked about the engineering, the legacy, the soul of the machine. Most grown-ups never ask those things. "Want to sit inside?" she offered. Milo's eyes went wide. "Seriously?" She nodded, respectfully, carefully. They took turns. No wild gestures, no selfies, just reverent silence, like sitting in a chapel made of carbon fiber. When they stepped out, she handed them a card. "If you ever want to know more, call me directly," she said. "You're always welcome here." "Thank you," Zeke said softly. "Thanks," Milo echoed, and this time, when they rode away, their heads were just a little higher. Back inside, the earlier salesman leaned over to a coworker. "Wasting her time," he muttered. She heard him, didn't flinch. There was something about those boys, their questions, their composure, their unspoken fire. Maybe it was the fact that they reminded her of herself once underestimated, overlooked, but quietly building something no one could see. The lights dimmed, the doors locked, and the day ended. But the story? Not even close. The heavy oak doors creaked open just enough to reveal a quiet moment frozen in time. Inside, their father sat behind a gleaming grand piano, the kind you only ever see in concert halls or homes, with names on their gates. He wasn't playing it. He just sat there, contemplative. The piano lid was open, and beside it rested a crystal tumbler, half filled with something golden and untouched. He was the kind of man no one interrupted. Not out of fear, but because his silence carried more weight than most men's speeches. He looked up as his son stepped in. "Back so soon?" he asked, voice calm and unreadable. Milo and Zeke nodded, unsure how much to reveal. He studied them without blinking. "Everything all right?" Zeke started to say yes out of habit, but then stopped. No, he admitted softly. Not really. Their father motioned to 2 leather armchairs near the fireplace. Sit. They dropped their bags and sank in. Silence filled the room like a fog rolling in through open windows. He swirled the drink in his glass once, set it down without tasting it, and turned his chair slightly, like a man about to listen rather than speak. Tell me what happened. The story came out slowly, like water from a faucet that hadn't been used in a while, halting, uncertain but carrying pressure behind it. Zeke began. We went to the dealership, the exotic one downtown. Their father gave a slight nod. No comment, just eyes locked. We just wanted to see the car we'd found online, Zeke continued. We weren't messing around, we were polite, just curious. And then? His father asked. Milo picked it up. One of the salesmen, he looked at us like we were trash, said we didn't belong there, laughed, told us the car started at $900,000. Other people laughed too. His voice cracked a little. It was humiliating. The words drifted upward like smoke in a quiet room. No one moved. Then Zeke added quickly, but there was a woman. She worked there. She came over after they brushed us off. She was different. She showed us the car's features, gave us brochures, treated us like we mattered. Their father leaned back, the leather chair creaking under his weight. His face didn't shift. No sudden flinch of anger, no paternal firestorm. Just that same calm focus, like a chess player studying the board. Did she know who you were? He asked. Zeke shook his head. Number, we didn't tell her our last name. Smart, their father murmured almost to himself. A long pause followed. Then Milo, voice low and unsure, asked, Why do people treat you different, just because of what you're wearing? Their father's gaze moved to him. Because too many people confuse appearance with worth, and that, he said with a tone like a closing door, tells you everything about them, not you. Milo nodded, chewing on that answer like a riddle he'd be unraveling for years. Another silence. Then their father stood and walked to the window, clasping his hands behind his back as the sun began its slow descent. For a while, he said nothing. Then, without turning around, he spoke just 5 words. Thank you for telling me. That was it. No raised voice, no outburst, just 5 simple words, delivered with such weight that it filled the room. Zeke glanced at Milo, unsure if they should say more. But there was nothing else to add. They had been heard, and somehow, that felt like enough. Dinner that evening was unusually quiet. The long mahogany table stretched unnecessarily wide for 3 people, but they always sat close, as if defying the space between them. The chandelier cast warm light over precisely arranged plates and glinting silverware, while soft jazz floated down from ceiling speakers. The boys picked at their food, glancing now and then at their father. He ate the way he did everything deliberately, fully present. At one point, Zeke cleared his throat. You're not mad? Their father didn't look up. At who? Zeke hesitated. The salesman, the people who laughed. This time, the fork was set down with care. Their father finally looked up and said, I don't waste anger on people who show me who they are. I pay attention, and I act when it matters. Then he returned to his meal. The message, as always, was clear. Emotions are fuel, but control is power. After dinner, the brothers walked upstairs. As they passed in the hallway, Milo leaned over and whispered, Do you think he's going to do something? Zeke smirked. You don't know Dad by now? The answer arrived the next morning. Down in his private study, their father made a quiet phone call. Yes, he said into the phone. I need both cars delivered by 8 a.m. tomorrow. No delays. He paused, listening. No, not the standard delivery. Have the drivers wait outside the dealership. Timing is everything. Another pause. Then softly, it's time they remember just because someone looks ordinary doesn't mean they are. He ended the call, placed the phone down, and leaned back in his chair. His sons had been judged by their clothes. He was about to remind the world that true power never shouts, it whispers. Then it arrives. Morning broke with drama. 2 Rolls-Royce boat tails, the rarest of the rare, the kind of cars whispered about in billionaire circles, rolled silently up to the dealership. They didn't just arrive, they glided. The first, obsidian black with silver trim, looked like the night sky had been liquefied. The second, a regal navy blue with rose gold accents, shimmered in the sun like melted luxury. Together, they were worth more than $50 million, but the money wasn't the flex. The presence was. Heads snapped, conversations died mid-sentence. A couple touring the showroom stopped in awe as the man slowly removed his sunglasses in disbelief. In the lounge, someone spilled their coffee, but no one noticed. All eyes were on the car and what was about to happen next. A barista nearly dropped his espresso trying to get a better look. Even the janitor paused mid-mop, mouth slightly open. All around the dealership, phones were whipped out like revolvers, whispers spreading fast. Is that a boat tail? Wait, two of them? No one knew what to do with that kind of power parked outside like it owned the pavement. Customers and staff surged toward the dealership's glass front like moths hypnotized by neon. Some stared in silence, others whispered names they'd only seen in luxury magazines. But no one dared move closer. Then the doors opened. From the royal blue boat tail, two teenage boys stepped out, Milo and Zeke, wearing the exact same combat shorts and plain white tees as the day before. No change, no upgrade, just them. And this time, they weren't here to admire. They were here because they belonged. They moved with calm, not cockiness. There was no swagger, just gravity. They circled to the front of the obsidian black boat tail. And then, the second door opened. He stepped out. Their father. Dressed in a charcoal grey suit so sharp it could cut silence, he exuded the kind of presence you can't fake. No labels, no flashy watch, just meticulous precision. Even the way he adjusted his cufflinks felt like it had a mission. The moment his polished shoes touched the pavement, the atmosphere changed. Conversations froze, air stilled. He didn't walk into the dealership, he arrived. Inside, the smug salesman from the previous day was mid-laugh, retelling his version of the dumb kids who thought they could afford a $900 K car. His laugh died in his throat when he saw them. The boys. And the man behind them. Recognition slammed into his face like cold water, followed by panic. He tried to recover, wiping his hands on his pants, straightening his tie, fixing his stance, but his smug grin had evaporated. The glass doors parted as the trio stepped in, and the entire sales floor shifted. People moved instinctively, parting like someone had announced royalty. The air thickened. The reception desk suddenly felt like the epicenter of a storm. The father stepped forward, his sons at his sides, calm, controlled. "I'd like to speak to the staff member who helped my sons yesterday," he said, voice smooth but lined with steel. The receptionist blinked, visibly rattled. "Yes, sir. Just one moment." Too late. The salesman pounced. "Sir, that was actually me." "No," the father said, cool as a blade. "You weren't the one who helped them." The man froze, stammered, "But I..." The father turned his gaze to the dealership manager, who had been watching through his office glass like a nervous extra in a courtroom drama. "I assume your security cameras recorded yesterday's interactions?" he asked. The manager nodded, slowly. "Yes, sir. We archive everything." "Good," the father replied. His voice wasn't loud, but every syllable landed. "Then I suggest you review the footage before this conversation continues." The manager vanished like a man, hoping the footage didn't include him. Silence crashed over the room. Staff whispered. Customers started piecing together exactly who these kids were, and more importantly, who their father was. Milo and Zeke stood still, side by side. Not embarrassed. Not invisible. Not sons of a billionaire. Just two young men, finally standing tall in a room that once told them to shrink. 5 minutes passed. Then the manager returned, face pale. He didn't look at the salesman. "We've reviewed the footage, sir." Their father arched an eyebrow. "The employee who assisted your sons was Emily Torres," the manager said. "And this man?" the father asked, gesturing toward the now visibly sweating salesman. "He misrepresented the interaction," the manager replied, swallowing. "His behavior was unprofessional and inappropriate." The father turned to the salesman. Voice calm, words lethal. "You judged my sons the moment they walked in it for who they were, but for what they wore." The salesman opened his mouth. Nothing came out. "You laughed, mocked them, dismissed them like they were beneath you. And the irony?" His eyes narrowed. "You don't belong here." The manager stepped forward, voice steady. "Effective immediately. You're terminated." A ripple of gasps moved through the room like wind over tall grass. The salesman didn't argue, didn't protest. He just collected his things and walked out, past the very boys he had once considered a joke. The father turned back, Bring me Emily." Moments later, the woman from yesterday appeared nervous, confused. Her eyes met the boy's first. Recognition bloomed, followed by concern. "Is everything okay?" she asked. For the first time that morning, the father smiled. "Just a little. Just enough." "More than okay," he said. "You treated my sons with respect. You listened. You gave them your attention when no one else did." Emily blushed. "They were polite, smart. It was a pleasure." He nodded, then turned toward the hypercar they had admired. "They told me they liked that one." The entire showroom froze. "I'd like to purchase it," he said. "Fully loaded, every feature they mentioned added." Emily blinked. That's over $3 million. He reached for a pen. "Then make it $3.1 and make sure the full commission goes to you." He signed the paperwork on the same counter where his sons had once been laughed at. And just like that, it became more than a transaction. It became a statement, a correction, a reckoning. As Emily finalized the details, Milo and Zeke scanned the room at the people who had smirked, whispered, judged. Now they stood silent, humbled. Some couldn't even look them in the eyes. The father turned to his sons, extended the keys. "Happy early birthday." They took the keys quietly. No celebration, no selfies, just silent pride. They walked back outside not as the underestimated, but as the unexpected. And as the two boat tails drifted away down the road, the only thing left behind was silence. And a story no one inside that dealership would ever forget. The hypercar slid away from the curb like a whispered secret, sunlight catching on every polished curve, dancing across the chrome trim and deep, oceanic paint. Behind the wheel sat a man carved from composure, his suit as sharp as his silence. It didn't feel like he was driving the car. It felt like the car had been waiting for him to allow it to move. In the back seat, Milo and Zeke sat in quiet awe, fingers curled around the keys. But these weren't just car keys, they were keys to a deeper understanding of identity, of value, of voice. The car disappeared down the tree-lined road, swallowed by soft shadows. Inside the dealership, stillness returned. But it wasn't silence born of luxury, it was the kind that follows thunder. Staff who had laughed now stood mute, frozen. Some still held their phones, forgotten mid-record. Others simply stared, their disbelief tangled with shame. No one spoke not because of the money, but because of what the moment meant. The manager stood behind his glass office wall, arms folded, jaw set tight not with anger, but with quiet reckoning. That hadn't been a sale, it had been a mirror. And everyone in that room had just seen their own reflection. The smirking customer from the day before now looked away. The junior salesman who once giggled along now rubbed his neck, suddenly unsure what to do with his hands. Even the janitor, who had remained out of the fray, shook his head in subtle respect. They had all just witnessed a transformation. Not of wealth, of perception, of character. Because this wasn't about horsepower, it was about how you treat people, especially when you think no one's watching. It was a lesson in the danger of confusing humility with weakness and simplicity with insignificance. Somewhere in the back, a soft chime echoed from the manager's office. Then, quietly, Emily Torres stepped out. No spotlight, no applause, just grace. Her hair pulled back, simple blouse, no designer flair, no smug smile. In her hand saw a neatly folded letter signed by the regional director, a quiet promotion. Effective immediately, she was now senior sales consultant, with her own team, her own office, and a seat at the table where decisions are made. She didn't cry, she didn't boast. She walked across the showroom like someone who had nothing to prove, just something to stand for. Every co-worker she passed knew. They had all doubted her instincts just 24 hours ago, but now every step she took whispered the truth they'd missed. Respect isn't claimed, it's earned. And kindness? Kindness is never wasted. She passed the receptionist, who gave her a soft, knowing smile. Emily nodded back. Nothing needed to be said. It was understood. The air inside the dealership had shifted. Not because fewer cars were sold, but because something human had finally happened in a space built to worship machine. Where once there had been arrogance, now there was awareness. A customer requested to speak with Emily. A new salesman sat a little taller at his desk. A hushed conversation died out mid-sentence. The camera pulls back, zooming out slowly. We see the elegant showroom, the polished tiles, the million-dollar machines gleaming beneath the lights. Then we pass the now vacant desk. the one where arrogance once stood with a crooked smirk. The nameplate is gone, but the absence? It echoes louder than his voice ever did. If this story moved you even just a little, go ahead and like the video and subscribe to the channel. We don't just tell stories, we share reminders. That character counts, that grace matters. That real power walks quietly and leaves deep footprints. We want to hear from you. What did you think of how Milo and Zeke were treated? What went through your mind when their father returned the next day quietly but unmistakably? Did this end the way you expected? Drop your thoughts in the comments and rate the story on a scale of 1 to 10. Tell us how it landed with you. Also, let us know where you're watching from. Whether it's Paris, Toronto, Nairobi, Jakarta, Sao Paulo, or a quiet little town that's never seen a boat tail your voice matters here. Respect to the brothers for their composure, to Emily Torres for leading with humanity, and to a father who reminded everyone that true power doesn't roar, it simply arrives. Thanks for watching, and remember, kindness costs nothing. But arrogance? That can cost everything.